Hey everybody, morning, morning. So we got channel members Don, Ivan, Craig, Don. General Rush, good to see you, sir. What do you think about all this going on? David, Cliff, David up early today. Welcome everybody. Ted, and then we got regular subscribers like Douglas, Jesse, Kay, Mad, Larry. Good to see everybody. So China has this plan out there, and we're witnessing a modern day, as another author put it, Sputnik type moment. But this time, it's not about rockets and satellites in space. It's about nuclear reactors being built for the future. And America is sleeping on its regulatory red tape and living in fear of building out nuclear plants. China, meanwhile, is building energy infrastructure that's going to determine who controls technology dominance, potentially for decades to come, maybe the next century. Now, in the time it takes the United States to just license a single nuclear reactor, we're talking about 10 to 12 years, that is, by the way, just to license it. China builds 2.5 complete nuclear plants, start to finish, from raw land to operating nuclear plant. Think about that. Think about that. So let's break down what's actually happening here, shall we? Now, the United States operates 94 nuclear reactors. It's the largest fleet of nuclear reactors in the world. We generate 19% of all our electricity from nuclear power currently. On paper, we're winning. Maybe? Wrong. Dead wrong. See, here's what should kind of terrify every American. Since the year 2000, that's 25 years ago, in case the year 2000, the United States has only built 2 new nuclear plants. 2. China, well, they've built 40. And they're just getting started. They're ramping up at a scary pace, really. They just approved 10 new nuclear reactors in April of 2025 alone. Just in April, 1 month, 10 new nuclear reactors approved. That's like $27 billion investment there. I mean, just kind of crazy. Now, China could build a reactor start to finish in 52 months. 52 months, just over 4 years. That's kind of wild. Now, so China's building these reactors faster. So what, right? I mean, big deal. Here's why this kind of matters more than ever before. ChatGPT and AI image generation and AI, Gemini, Google's Gemini, Perplexity, all these AI models, they all require massive amounts of electricity. And I mean massive. And the United States has approximately half of the world's data centers out there. That's like 5,000 facilities consuming electricity 24/7, running servers and computers. And we're talking about Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, all these big tech companies, and they're all scrambling for power deals, nuclear power deals, because it's reliable. It's 24/7. It doesn't hiccup. AI is going to consume more electricity than the entire country consumes right now. Microsoft signed a deal to restart 3 Mile Island up there in Pennsylvania, and Meta inked a 20-year nuclear deal with Constellation Energy. Now, Energy Secretary Chris Wright calls this our next Manhattan project. But here's the problem. We're talking about it. We're planning it. We're, giving it lip service, but China's already doing it. They're already in the process. They currently have fewer than 500 data centers online, but they're aggressively expanding their nuclear footprint. And this can all change dramatically very, very quickly. This isn't just about electricity. This is about who controls the infrastructure that powers AI intelligence and who controls the technology to refuel and operate these nuclear plants. I mean, whoever controls the infrastructure, all of this controls the future of commerce, defense, global intelligence, global influence. I mean, think about it. Think about all the things that AI is already doing. Now, let's be a little bit objective. See, China's doing things remarkably well as far as building these nuclear plants, right? These reactors. They've got speed, they've got efficiency. They're building them just over 4 years while maintaining safety standards. Haven't had any accidents. Their centralized authority allows them to deploy construction crews efficiently across the country. Technology innovation. I mean, they're now the world leader in fusion technology development. The holy grail. Like, this is fusion technology is like where we thought we were going to go with all of this. You know, right now it's fission technology, which is splitting atoms. But China's actually gotten ahead in fusion technology, which is like what the sun runs on. They produce 10 times more PhD graduates in fusion science than the United States. 10 times. The domestic manufacturing, well, they've achieved 100% domestic production of all the key nuclear equipment. No supply chain vulnerabilities, no foreign dependencies. Their nuclear expansion is tied to carbon neutrality goals and peak emissions. You know, we've talked about this global peak emissions thing for years in the mainstream media. They plan to, have peak emissions before 2030 and be completely carbon neutral by 2060. And it's not just their energy policy, it's a comprehensive national strategy for China. You know, they are the dirty country right now, but they were building these coal plants so they could build these nuclear plants. It's kind of wild. They're completing projects on time, on budget, maybe even ahead of schedule. And you compare that to the US, the latest reactor that we built and put online, $16 billion over budget, years over schedule, just behind the times. So safety concerns, when you're moving fast, you get cutting corners. You know, China's aggressive approach may lead to an accident. And, they're trying out experimental designs that just wouldn't even pass US regulations. But now, much of China's nuclear advancement is built on America's research. We published all this open source research on these, and essentially we funded our own competition through all of our academic publications. They're taking them, combining all of our collective knowledge that we put out since like the 50s on nuclear research, and they're combining it together to build new innovative plants and reactors. China's nuclear dominance could lead to energy diplomacy and leverage this technology over other nations. Similar to how Russia has used natural gas in Europe to kind of get what they want, in essence. Now, rapid reactor construction across multiple sites includes the probability of accidents, as I've hinted at already, and we could have an environmental disaster if something bad happened. But China could use their nuclear technology to undercut American companies on the international competition. Companies could get ahead. China could get ahead of U.S. nuclear companies we'll talk about those companies here in a minute, these opportunities. Now, enough doom and gloom. Trump has already signed executive orders, but we gotta break free this Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, a 70-year-old regulatory matrix that's like trying to approve a Tesla using horse and buggy type regulations. Cutting edge EV with horse and buggy type tech in the regulations. Now, President Trump's executive orders are a start, but we need Congress to act decisively and with force. Small modular reactors, advanced fuel designs, microreactors. These technologies are invented in America, but they're being commercialized in China because our regulatory process is broken and prevents them from being even deployed here in the United States. We need to fast track approval get rid of the burden for these proven technologies. Now, the Biden administration set a target to quadruple U.S. nuclear capacity to 400 gigawatts by 2050. That's ambitious, but we need to back it up with a Manhattan Project level of funding. The World Bank just lifted nuclear financing moratorium after decades. If the World Bank recognizes nuclear's importance, surely America can invest in its own energy, right? Now, we need to copy China's playbook, but do it better and faster in the U.S. way. Create nuclear development zones where private companies can build reactors in a streamlined fashion with federal oversight. We need to give tax incentives that can make nuclear investment irresistible. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they're already writing checks, big checks for nuclear power. Let's make it easier for them to write bigger checks to American companies and provide American jobs. Streamline all this process. China produces 10 times more nuclear PhDs than we do. That's kind of unacceptable if anybody's really paying attention. We need massive investment in nuclear engineering programs here in the United States to attract new students and make nuclear engineering kind of as attractive as like Silicon Valley tech jobs. Possibly incentives, bonuses, fast-tracking citizens for fast-tracking citizenship for those foreign nuclear talents that want to come here and stay here and be here. Set up innovative new things, not look at the old regulatory framework that's kind of tearing us apart. We need to, maybe stop giving away all of our nuclear innovations for free, this critical, research. We need to maybe limit some academic exchanges in some sensitive areas, possibly. China built a thorium reactor, and they built it using our blueprint. And then they combined another blueprint to be able to, fuel it and run it. Thorium is like 10 times more abundant than uranium in the worldwide crust. And it's kind of like giving away the recipe for Coca-Cola and then wondering why everybody else's soft drinks taste the exact same. It's kind of crazy. Now, how do we make money off this deal, right? That's what I'm always talking about. Smart Money has already positioned a little bit. Constellation Energy, CEG, it's the crown jewel of American nuclear technology. They operate the largest fleet of reactors in the U.S. Big tech's literally making deals left and right with Constellation. So that's already a number one play right there. Meta signed a 20-year agreement. Microsoft restarting 3 Mile Island, and they're using Constellation to get that done. When AI electricity demand is in full force, Constellation's probably going to be printing money. This is as close as it gets to, one of the key players. Cameco Corporation, CCJ, they're the uranium king. Their stock is up 580% over the last 5 years, and they're trading near all-time highs around $90, $95. Uranium is the fuel that powers this. And I've talked about, this regulatory limitation here in the United States. We need to do something to offset that. If America wants to quadruple capacity, CCJ is probably going to be at the forefront of this, at least right now. Global nuclear capacity is supposed to triple by 2050. We're going to need a lot of uranium if we're going to quadruple capacity or triple capacity. If we're going to increase capacity, we've got to have uranium, at least until thorium really comes on the scene in a big way. New scale power, SMR. These SMR, small modular reactors, a lot of people look at it as the future right now of nuclear technology. SMR was up 445% in 2024 alone. Revenue projected to grow 188% next year. These aren't massive nuclear plants like you go drive down, you see the big towers, got some little ones behind me here. This is not the same sort of thing. These small modular reactors, these are small, they're safer potentially, can be deployed much faster, built in a few years, gotten online. They're perfect perfect for deploying in tighter areas and powering data centers and industrial facilities. Then we have Oklo, OKLO. This is a startup, and they're thinking differently about nuclear power. They're up about 200% since April alone. They're developing what we call microreactors. These are advanced designs that could revolutionize how we think about nuclear power. High risk, high reward, but they've kind of taken nuclear reactors and shrunken them down to fit inside containers that can be deployed, can be made in a factory and deployed, independently. I've talked about these before from Westinghouse, and Oklo is, starting to build these. And like, if you need more power demand, you just roll out more of these containers and just plug them together until you reach the capacity that you need for the demand. Now, we have other companies like Centrus Energy, LEU. And here's most investors probably haven't heard much about them, but Centrus is the only company in America licensed to produce that HALEU. I talked about this last week. It's high assay, low enriched uranium. That's the fuel that we need for advanced reactors that are online right now. Most small modular reactor designs use this type of fuel. It's HALEU. And funny enough, Centrus, their ticker, LEU. Now, I've talked about that we need to be able to build the energy, the fuel production facilities. We need demand in the United States. So this is kind of like a hand-in-hand type of thing. Centrus right now has a monopoly on that fuel production right there. BWX Technologies, this is a picks and shovels type of play. BWXT is the ticker. They make nuclear equipment and provide services to both government and commercial nuclear markets. It's kind of, less awesome, less, sexy than the reactor type companies, but you might have more stable returns. Now, if you want to go bigger, get more broad exposure, diversified approach, you've got stuff like the VanEck Uranium and Nuclear ETF NLR. Excuse me. And if you want exposure to the entire nuclear supply chain without picking individual companies, winners and losers, you can get this one up with about a 0.5 expense ratio and diversify across uranium mining, reactor construction, and utilities. And then we also have Range Nuclear Renaissance. Get the word spit out of my mouth. And the ticker is NUKZ. Up about 61% in the past year, about a 0.85 expense ratio. And this fund is betting pretty heavily on a nuclear renaissance, essentially. So far, paying off in their investments for that ETF. So before we go, throwing our money at just any old willy-nilly nuclear stock, let me give you some reality checks. All right. Now, nuclear currently extremely heavily regulated. Policy changes. We got to make some to really break this thing free in a big way here in the United States. SMRs sound great, these small modular reactors, but they haven't been deployed at scale. They've just been experimental so far. Other companies like Oklo haven't even really, fully deployed a working large-scale system yet. There's things that, we don't know what we don't know yet. There's long development cycles. All right. These, right now, projects take years to get approved in the United States. China, if they get way ahead of us and dominate, American companies might become obsolete in this area. The technology may blow by us. Think about that. 10 times more PhDs. That's 10 times more research, 10 times more all sorts of things. A lot of them come here and get educated and go back home. That said, the long-term trend's undeniable. We're going to need more power. Nuclear is the only real way to solve this, at least with that solid base demand, until we come up with other innovative solutions, battery storage and things like that with solar. I mean, the sun is fusion technology. It runs 24/7, never sleeps, never shuts off, but the earth does rotate where we're not always in the, we can't always see it. We do have clouds, we do have weather. So are there other competing technologies? Possibly. But nuclear is the only one that we currently have access to that we can deploy at scale relatively quickly without solving a lot of other issues like weather. So here's the bottom line. We're living through a nuclear renaissance right now, and realizing it or not, China has already thrown down the gauntlet. Can we catch up? And we're still ahead, but the cards are down, and we can't let this opportunity pass us by. But here we are. We're just investors, right? This isn't just about energy, though. This is about world control, really. Right now, China's in the race. They're coming up fast. And we know Americans don't stay down for long. So when we decide that we're in this competition, that we want to compete, we don't just compete. Usually we dominate. I mean, we put a man on the moon. We built the internet. We created basically the modern financial, finance. Welcome to the stock market. I mean, but this nuclear renaissance is coming. The only question is whether American companies are going to lead, follow, or get out of the way or get left behind. Smart investors already positioned in the trend, and this is our opportunity, right? So if you like this kind of content, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments down below. Let's see how we can actually make some money, shall we? Let's pop back over, check out some of the other things going on in the market. I mean, we got a little bit of reprieve from Friday's drop. Let's check it out. And interesting. We've got the market open already. Pop back up about the 5-minute roadmap line. S&P back above the 15-minute roadmap line. Bounced off of the 30-minute, looks like. Yep, bounced off the 30. Golly. Excuse me. So we came down, made that 5 down. I talked about that on Friday right there. Look, you remember me talking about how we might complete that on Friday? Didn't get a nice deep, possibly 786 bounce. You remember this conversation from Friday? If you don't, well, here's the area of resistance. We're already right to it, right here. If we find resistance here and turn down, this next move down can be pretty violent. It's not an all clear, certainly not yet. So be careful on that one. Speaking of being careful, all trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance, not necessarily indicative of future results. Just because I predict things and get things right. Well, I mean, I've been talking about this nuclear stuff and how it's the only real solution for the coming power demands. This presentation here is designed to be informational, educational, fun, entertaining. Hopefully not a recommendation to be buying or selling any of the financial instruments I talk about, including stocks, options, bonds, forex, futures, cryptos, treasuries, bonds. Don't long them, don't short them, don't trade them. Don't buy stuff from people like me, gurus. We're not an end-all be-all. We're just people talking about stuff on the internet. I mean, maybe we get stuff right, maybe we don't. Past performance, not necessarily indicative of future results. If you want somebody to tell you what to do, what buttons to push, and nothing else, hire and consult a financial advisor. That's what they do. And check this out. Load this up. We're in the all-time here. All-time up to $5,000. Look at the 1 year, $6,000. Of course, that trickles down 3 month. I've only been at this 50K challenge for a couple months now. The 1 month, still hanging out right around 3,000. This was yesterday. It was 30. I think it was 3,400, and then of course a couple of those trades drop off the 30-day window. So what we're looking at profit-wise, you can see right here in the last 3 months, the last year, been on a pretty good climb. All time, I've only been at this challenge since basically tax week. Tax week here in the United States. You can see right there. Dun, dun, dun. The April 15th. And then a couple days later, booked the first profits. Just been grinding higher. Now, unless something crazy happens in the next day or so, my VIX protection that I bought for June, probably going to go out far to zero and create a loss. No big deal. I don't buy insurance hoping to collect. That's not the point of insurance. If you're buying VIX plays and you're hoping it pays out while you're playing long, you gotta balance, right? I put a few $100 at risk to potentially make a few $1,000 if things happen before that June expiration on VIX. And just in case maybe you weren't around or you're new here or, something like that, let me roll back and see if I can find that VIX OPEX thing I had up. Let's see if I still have it popped up on one of my tabs. There it is. Right here. We're looking at June. So what do all these colors mean? Cool. The last J to trade expiring VIX options right there in the baby blue. So we look at June. That's tomorrow, the 17th. And we have an FOMC meeting coming up on the 18th. So if you want to cover this event on the 18th or any other war rhetoric or anything else, July, August might be good ways to play. Playing out a week, you're probably going to lose that money. I would, the general financial advisor way, they say roll out 3 months. Cover the next 3 months. I usually play it a little tighter. I'd probably be in July or August and spend less money. Probably August would be where I would go to right now if I was going to jump out there. We do have September you could go to also. Yeah. So October, November, December. I mean, you play all the way out to December. Usually you pay more, and ones that are further out are less responsive when we get a big shock in VIX. So if you're playing VIX to cover anything on the downside, play close to the money and close to time. But I'm not sure the weeklies are the place to be right there, especially if you're doing it for insurance. All right. You're going to spend a lot of money on your insurance. It's kind of like shopping for car insurance. You don't drive around hoping you get in an accident and you collect on your car insurance. I mean, you buy homeowners policies. You don't hope your house burns down and you collect your insurance, right? I mean, most of us don't do that. So when you buy insurance for your portfolio, spend a couple $100, protect it for a little while, and you don't sit there and hope you collect. We're already getting a drop off from what we had on Friday right here. Now, look at the big picture here, though. We could very easily get a bigger spike going here in VIX. Could. Kind of seen this play out before, where we get the lower high, a little bit higher high, but quick rejection, lower high, and then the bigger move, and then the monster, baby. I'm not saying another monster's coming, but we might get something back up in this 25 to 30 area right in here. Be careful out there. Probably see some volatility. Got that FOMC meeting coming up this week. See, we got basically nothing here. Core retail sales tomorrow. We've got that FOMC meeting on Wednesday. We've got Juneteenth. The market's closed on Thursday and then reopens on Friday. This is going to be a fun week, right? We get a Friday on a Wednesday, and then we get a Friday on a Friday, and a Monday and a Friday on a Friday. Ooh, nasty. Anyway, moving on. The list was pretty big this week, or today, not this week. But let's run through, hit some highlights, kind of find out what's cooking, what's shaking and baking, baby. So, like I talked about, we hit that 30 minutes on the cash index. Hit that 30 minutes. Found support, bounced up. This is pretty much exactly what I talked about on Friday right there. Now, why am I looking for a deep retrace? It's because this, circling back, this right here, this low, and this retrace right here off of that created overlap. That is not an impulsive move down. It's kind of what I might call a leading diagonal in Elliott wave speak. Typically, when an ending diagonal ends, which it looks like we ended right here on that move, we do a deep retrace, potentially 786 or even an 88. I don't even have that fib line on there. There's like an 88.6, which could put it right up in this area right around here, or even as deep as that. So that's a zone right there that we could retrace all the way up into and still get continuation lower. So we're not in the get out of financial jam free for the market zone yet. Saw lots of rhetoric on the reopen last night, how all clear, everything's good. Be careful being complacent here. Be very, very careful being complacent here. This is a potential first move setup to get a deep extension lower. And right now, we could be sitting down here. On the next move, it could be well into this 58, if not, the 5800s, basically, below 5900. This would be a soft move. This would be a more aggressive move down right there. Hey, my Reddit trade just closed. Cool. Let's go look at that. Reddit. Dun, 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 dun. I was looking for that to pop to the roadmap line, and we did. Cha-ching, right there. Beautiful. RDTL. I actually played it with this. I bought shares right down here at 12-ish. Just cashed out at 20, according to my alert. A pretty good little move. About a 65% on shares. Not too bad. Supercharged alerts. I didn't play that for supercharged alerts, but that was a kind of using that same mentality right there. Beautiful. That was one that showed up on the supercharged dart pool scanner, and I wasn't feeling it because the Reddit chart, I didn't want to put, I tend to be a more conservative trader, and being under the roadmap line, that's a kind of a, when that alert came out, it was right here. That looked more likely to go here than here. So with my Termite Trading Lab group, I bought a few shares, not very much, very low exposure. Just made 65% on that though. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right. So S&P, obviously, look at the futures, look at the overnight action. Got a little spicy here. A lot of spicy, really. A lot of spicy. Pushing up higher on the futures. It's going to be probably with that contract rollover. Yeah, we did a contract rollover right here. Pushed it out to September. That pushes it up right there. So that gap up partially on the back of the contract rollover. Hard to look at the higher high today just on the contract rollover. But we are pushing higher. So that may push on up. May tag that 60.95 on the futures. In Q, same situation, retesting the downtrend. Same but different situation. Retesting the downtrend of highs. Once again, it's not an all clear. Be careful. Russell, not really participating here. Not pushing higher. That's why I bought that IWM spread. Things set for rip lower. Oil, what comes up? Looks like we get back up and on the contract rollover and coming back down. Oh, contract rollover tomorrow. Weekend bombing rhetoric, whatever, in the Middle East. And do we hold and go higher? Or do we break back below and go down for a lower low? Coin flip right here. If we get below the roadmap line, we're probably going lower low once again. So key inflection point at 67.50. If we maintain where we are, stay above 70, say 71. If we stay above 71, probably going on up for now. Probably in the 90s. If we get below 71, probably coming on down to 67 area. If we get below that, probably going down for a lower low somewhere in the 50s. GC. We did spike up. We didn't make a higher high. We do have contract rollover that happened back here. So that's not coming into play this week. That might be the end of this run here. Watch out for the big retrace. It's just a matter of when we're putting it in play here. When does it come into play? Probably going to come into play. Just a matter of when. Move these all over. Hopefully I'll try to save them. Maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. Save. So that's what we're looking for right there. For our move back down to the lows, retrace that holds a higher or a lower high, and then a bigger flush down toward the roadmap line. Proportions may or may not be accurate, but it's kind of the ideal spots we're looking for right now. Bitcoin, first move down, retrace. Potential next move down. That's how I see it. Watch for that flush on down in the 90s. And the Bitcoin spot markets has a little tighter chart going on here. A little tighter, a little better. Actually, off that low projected, we would climb back up to this 107 area. Right in there where we are. We can easily see that roll on down from here. Ethereum just chopping. Try to break out. Nope. Right back down to it. NKD keeps bouncing off the drew this wedge. I mean, we can fill this on out. And then do we break out or do we break down? I really don't like these wedge things. Not my favorite. Dollar just churning right there on that lower low. Might extend it down to 97, possibly even 96, high 96s. This is in a bottoming zone. But if we break through this 96.9 area, we could see a bigger flush on down, possibly 94, maybe even down to 90. Don't expect that right now. I expect more of a bounce, but those have been on the chart for a while as a support zone. If this current zone busts, this was a big target I've had for a couple years, right around this area that we're scraping the top of. And if we bust through it, that's the downside right there, down to 90. Mag 7s, check these out. Let's look at what's happening. We've got nothing happening on Apple so far. Seems to be kind of a watermelon seed squeeze. Right there. Another one of those squeeze plays. This could come on out into July before we either break out or break down. My vote would be... But at this point, that's a move up. Sideways would be a B wave, and we might see a C wave that pops this area before we go down and have that symmetry in the market. That echo, if you will. Amazon still struggling right at that resistance. First move down, possible second move down. Google, first move down, potential second move down. Nothing's really changed here for Mag 7s. Meta, first move down, struggling right there. Potential second move down, still in the charts. Microsoft, coming up. Had an all-time high close last week. Gunning for that 486 target. NVIDIA, first move down, potential second move down. But, you know, this one has the potential to go on up to 161. Like, it's primed for it, but I don't know if it can do it. Can actually reach up there. That might complete the upside also if we tag that target. I'm not betting on it, not betting against it. Low probability either way right now. I'm not high conviction. You'd be like, well, what about all the AI chips and all that? Yeah, be careful. AMD is rolling out AI chips like crazy, and even OpenAI saying that they're buying AMD chips because they're way cheaper than NVIDIA's. And be careful. Tesla has this small first move down, potential second move down. Had that bigger first move down with a bigger potential second move down. Be careful out there. I would want to see this, you know, if this plays out right here, this is pretty bullish. If we hold the support there and break back higher above that resistance, that's pretty bullish. If we break down below this, probably coming on down here. That's not so bullish. All right. I run a scanner that goes and looks for everything moving $2 or more up, put it on the gainers list, $2 or more down, put it on the decliners list. We hunt for a few opportunities, and then I got some setups, and then we'll wrap it up. Wrap up the day with the setups and then my buys for the day. So hang out to the very end here. And RGC. What a crazy candle. That one did a absolute wild split. It's like a 38 for 1 split, I guess. I don't know. PTIR. Yeah, just hanging. PLTR making new highs this morning in the pre-market. Tagging the extension. Could go on up. 162. Possible. Possible. Circle. And rip it again. Let's see. Based on the pullback. That's all we got. Already hitting extensions. We could come up to 186. Probably get some more pullback. ESLT. That's just been a little crazy there. Wow. Lots of stuff firing off. Be careful out there. That pullback. And we're at the extension there. 511 might be the next upside if we're going to be crazy. There's Centrus right there. LEU. Being absolute crazy. I would expect a pullback. Roku. And we've got a 3-wave down. Ambiguous retrace so far. Holding. This may be one of those first wave down, second wave down situations right there. First move, second move. Sats, Echo Star. Seeing the same pattern that's in the Mag 7s across a lot of stuff. First move down, potential second move down. AIRO. Yeah, nothing clear there. Coinbase, retracing the roadmap line. If we can hold it, push back through this resistance at the 618. Could be a power move to set up a run on up to 379, 404, and possibly these higher targets on up here. 490, 500, 600. Not too shabby. Carvana coming back for the roadmap line, more than likely. Watch for the deeper retrace to take hold on this. MSTR, first move down, potential retrace, and might extend it down into the roadmap line. Very similar to Coinbase. Found a lot of resistance right at that 618. And commonly we see a retrace back to the retest the roadmap line before we can push higher. It may fit with Bitcoin doing a bigger, deeper retrace. Royal Caribbean probably, and that might do a retrace. It could just break out though. Upside target 294 there. AppLovin back to the roadmap line. First move down, potential second move down. It's in the charts. TWSN. Be careful. That can easily come right back down. That looks like today's penny stock play of the day. Koru probably going to get a retrace back to the roadmap line here. ETHU. 2x leverage on Ethereum. Watch out on leverage. RH. Working through some stuff. Probably going to be bullish from here. If we can hold that low we had. We may dip one more low. Could possibly be first move down. Second move down situation where we just get a nominal lower low down to 154. And then set up the bigger move. In sight. Nothing clear there, but possible, potential, bigger upside target if we can break through and go cruising right there. Pull that target down just a hair. Golly. I have some kind of sludge going on. Like, makes me wheeze and then I start coughing. BWXT. 145 SRM, not SMR. I wonder if people are buying that, getting confused. SRM. Potential to retrace back to the roadmap line there. Upside targets. Yeah, 477, maybe 545. PPLT, platinum. I outlined last week how we could see this up in the 180 to 200 area pretty quickly. Wix, that looks pretty bad. Looks like we might be dropping that thing back down. First move down, retrace. Next move down, potential. Bigger picture. Be careful on Wix. Yes. Back to the roadmap line. Good place to hold support. SMH. Right at those prior highs. This could potentially push out. If NVIDIA is going to push out, this could push on out to 304. Let's see. Get AMD. Yeah, AMD just banging right at the roadmap line. It was just on down the list there. Another one, AVGO. Looks like we're going to push on out to 274. Neon. Nice big fat bounce at the targets. Be careful. IHG. That looks kind of bearish, actually. First move down, potential second move down. XXRP. Yeah, watch out if crypto retraces. PLTU, another PLTR. Making a new all-time high. Lululemon. Ooh, broke the pattern. Might be heading on down to 208 area. And if we don't hold that bigger support down here at 150. ERT. Yeah, it has the setup to go up to 181. Be careful. Could be a first move down, second move down. Let's see. CAMT. And the resistance. That first move down, second move down. Can we bounce here? Push through, retrace, hold the roadmap line, and go higher. Shopify. At resistance, if we can push on through, 141 on the upside. Reddit, we're at that resistance. Watch for a retrace here. Next resistance up is at 153. VST, probably set to come on up to 224. Snow, yeah, we hit the target. It's been amazing how firm that target held. 220 next upside. I actually took my call off of this when I booked it. It was up some ridiculous. Like I bought it for $50 a call, and I sold it for $75. So like 50% gain. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I bought it like right. Bought that call right there, and sold it right here. Beautiful move. Now, I didn't buy the bottom. I bought here on that, what looked like a bounce. And I bought it out to 20. It was well into next year, if not. I think it was next year. So, went and booked that one out. I'll look for a new opportunity because this is struggling here. I still have my one share, but potential to come on up here. But I'm off. I'm mostly off of that for now. Looking for a retrace. This kind of stall, usually we see something like this. Hold that area. New opportunity to get in. And then the bigger upside. For solar, nothing clear. That can easily come down here. MU, potential big breakout here. I would love to see that rock and roll up to about 200. Sage, potential to get a lower low. Credo, 9750 targets. Celsius. Be careful, we're scraping the bottom of the target here. I'm mostly off of Celsius, looking for another retrace. Coming into a big resistance zone. DFTV, first move down, second move down, potential. Dix, potential to flush that on down. It's been on the chart since before they announced they were buying out whatever it was. Can't remember. Footlocker. Yeah, buying out Footlocker. ARM. First move down, second move down. Potential to hold here, but struggling here at the resistance. May get another swing down lower. CCJ. Pushing on up. 73 next upside. FUTU. Potential to push on up. 139. A-Lab. Below the resistance. If we get above that gap down, sets the target for 167 on the upside. BABA. If we break below the roadmap line, might get a bigger, deeper flush out. SOLT, 2x on Solana. Deckers Outdoors, hunting for a bottom, might push lower low than we've had, below 94. AMAT, excuse me. Resistance up here at 193. Stack, not enough candles. QCOM, right in the middle of the mix. Sideways is the direction right now. MSTR, MTSR, excuse me. Not enough candles to do much with. That looks like it might want a deep retrace here. GDS, stuck on the roadmap line. TECL, 3x leverage. Be careful on leverage. Decliners, SRPT. Whoo! That's why you got to be careful when they're under the roadmap line. They can just flush on down. LMT. And not really going anywhere on that one. RBNE, not enough candles. GDXU, leverage, HUSA. That was a reverse split. That's danger. VXX, not able to get continuation so far. VIXI, not able to get continuation so far. Nugget, probably coming back to the roadmap line. BG. Either that's a leading diagonal or a nested 1-2-1-2. Potential to get a bigger move up. That target would be in the 94 to 100 area if we're going to push it on up right there. CVS. Oh, BG was a daily roadmap line bounce setup, and it probably already, it already hit the target. CVS did a bigger bounce. There's the high. Here's the low. These are setups. Good today. 74 on the upside target. HII had the high, had the low. 241. I guess I should pull up the statistics on these. And that one, worked out. CVS, 46 trades, net loser. Be careful. HI, 6 trades. Not really telling us much with 6 trades. That's not statistically significant. NOC, Northrop Grumman. Had lots of stuff drawn on this chart. Let's just clear it up with the immediate setup here. It's been in a sideways chop for quite a while. So we've got this high right there. We've got this low right here. We got that close above. 558 is the target. 48 trades, 75% of the time. Negative profit factor. So the losses are bigger than wins. Right there will be the target. Might want to play that more conservatively since the losses eat up the wins. TRGP. Another crazy one. I'm not sure I'd go after this one. Just, I don't like the entry point, but there's the high, here's the low, here's the close above the 618, and the target is 184. All right, bias for the day for those of you that stuck around. Man, lost a lot of the crowd today. Maybe the nuclear stuff wasn't so popular. And be very careful here. Like I said, we could get this deep retrace, which we're already pushing through. There is the 88.6 resistance. I mean, some people just want me to say, hey, we're going higher, but very dangerous position here. Yeah, the 88.6 right there. Just coming into it. And look where it is. It sits right there. Push through that on the 15-minute. We're probably going higher. If we reject off that, watch out. It's just on a leading diagonal. That would be a deep retrace. It's a fib ratio. That's the only It only comes into play like on leading diagonals as a deep retrace. It's not, I don't typically keep it on. I don't ever talk about it. I don't teach it in the fib class. I don't, like, it's just it doesn't come into play very often. So it's one of those rare instances. And Occam's razor, the simplest explanation tends to be the one that is. So we might be going higher, but this was not a very clear correction here. Some people might say, oh, it's just a buy the dip opportunity, but be very, very careful here. Market may top out if we actually go higher. 60.71, 60.83, those are the levels to watch. Don't think we're just cruising higher indefinitely. If we do make a new high, all-time high, this is the big warning. If we just go cruising on up, make a new all-time high above this 61.45 area, we have now completed the pattern for 2007. Potential crash. What would be the cause? Who knows? Financial institution blown out. War. We've got a ton of things stacked up that could. We could sit here and speculate on ideas all day. The why, I don't know. Don't care. If we complete that 2007, better be careful out there. Better be careful out there. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again later. Termite Trading Lab, we have a roundtable at 1 o'clock.